Welcome back to another edition of Components Breakdown. Today we're going to look at a re-release of a game. This is the 2010 version of High School Drama. It's the Varsity Edition. It's a 2 to 5 player game that takes about 60 to 90 minutes to play. Longer, obviously, with the more players that you have in the game. Each of the players is going to take on a classic archetype that is in high school, such as the geek, the hacker, jocks, the rich girl and whatnot. And you're going to be playing with them from their freshman year all the way through their senior year in which they graduate. With the objective of the game being the player with the most number of signatures at the end of their senior year. So let's actually open up the box and see what comes inside the game.
Claire?
Claire, it's a family name.
Oh, it's a fat girl's name.
So the reason why we're looking at high school drama today is for the simple fact that for every Agricola and Puerto Rico written review and video, overview of a game, there's smaller publishers out there who have games that are either worthy of a look or maybe have piqued your interest. And what I'm going to try to do here on Components Breakdown is try to incorporate as many games as I can of all different kinds of genres. And although I'll never steer into the risks and the monopolies of the world, I do want to give some of these smaller games at least a look, so maybe I can help someone out in picking a game they might not normally pick, or try to steer them away from something that they simply won't like themselves. And this is a game that piqued my interest for quite some time, so I went ahead and picked it up. It took me quite a while to actually learn the rules and play it. So first thing we're going to do is actually look at the box and show you some of the strange nuances of the game. So the first thing you're going to notice is that it comes in this strange box. Now this is the Varsity Edition of the game, and the box that it comes in has this little see-through where the secondary card box fits simply inside. Now the second box is a travel box, and they say that you can travel with this and not need the rest, but it's impossible for the simple fact that they've kept the yearbook signature tracker and the semester tracker right here on the front cover, and you would think that it's perforated, and it's not. It's actually, as you can see, it's glued to the top, so it's impossible to remove. So you actually need this to play, and as you can see, it free floats in here, which is extremely annoying trying to play the game. Now, you could take an X-Acto and cut it out if you so wished, but that kind of breaks away from the need to have a travel case that is included with it. It comes with a rule book. The rulebook is not very well written. There are a lot of issues with it, a lot of questions that are raised. Most of them can be found on the Geek, but there's still some questions about rules and some of the situations that come up in the game on whether or not certain actions can be taken or not. So for the most part, they're pretty self-explanatory, but you will have some issues trying to figure out some of the rules. Just be aware of that. And then the travel case that it comes with, inside you have another box which has all of the main cards, which are the student cards and the organization cards. You have the event cards and you have the drama cards, as well as a numerous amount of tokens that fit right back inside here. And there's little compartments on here that are supposed to stay up, but they're not very well put together, so they flap around a lot. So that's the inserts for High School Drama, and actually let's set it up and show you some basic gameplay and see if it's something that you might enjoy.
Married?
Married! Jeez.
Now I've laid the components down on the table and I've separated them out, and we're going to walk through them one more time to give you a little better understanding of what the components do, so that when I start explaining the gameplay, they'll make a little better sense for you. So the first thing, that each player starts off with their bond markers, which are these colored tokens. Now there's 90 of them in the game. That's 5 players, so that means each player gets 18 of them. 17 of them are going to go on your side, and from what I believe in the rules, although it doesn't state, one of them is going to go on your signature tracker starting at the 0 position, basically. And it also comes with 2 of these icon markers. Now, again, in the rules, it doesn't state what these are used for. I can only imagine one of them is used to track the semesters within each of the years. The other one, I honestly have no idea what it does, and I'm not sure anyone else does. Looking back down here, you have 2 sets of the large cards. You have organization cards and student cards, and I pulled one out from each up here. And on each of the cards, they have different names to them. Now the names aren't really that important. The color coding is important, and they each represent different cliques within a school. For instance, the Pretty Rich Girl is from the popular clique because of the pink, and this garage band has a dual personality. It's both artsy and geeky, so it fits into either one of those. Now, there are 3 different ratings on the character cards or the student cards and 2 different ratings on the organizations. The cool rating simply means how cool you are. The higher number, the better. You can usually make relationships when your cool rating is higher than someone else, or you can make a relationship if you're within the same clique. So popular people always want to hang out with other popular people. Your cruel rating, which is just on the students, is how cruel you are, and that correlates to trying to do breakups in the game. Your cruel rating actually needs to be higher than the bond between 2 different groups, and I'll explain that later. And the last one is your heart. Heart is how many bonds you can have with a fellow student or organization. What you would do is you would add up both hearts to the 2 connected player, or to the 2 connected cards, which can be student and student or student and organization. The number of bonds is the number of the hearts added up. So this group right here, this clique, can have a total of 6 bonds between it. So the next things you have, as I zoom out here, are you have event cards and you have drama cards. We'll go into drama cards first. Now within the drama deck, there are exactly the same 3 cards, although they have different names at the top, but their explanations are all the same. There's breakups, there's bonds, and then there's hookups. Basically, we'll start on the left-hand side. Hooking up is simply hooking up with someone of the same type. So again, going back to my first example, popular people can hang out with other popular people. A bond is strengthening a bond that already is established. So if you've already made a hookup, you can reinforce that with an additional one of your bond markers. And the last thing is breaking up. Breaking up is when you remove a bond marker from a rival's clique. And to explain that, your person that's committing the breakup, so if she is committing the breakup and she has a cruel rating, the number of bonds between whoever you're breaking up has to be 3 or lower in order to remove one of those. So everybody starts off with these same 3 cards. Now, the other thing are the event cards. And they're basically more powerful versions of these drama cards. But they don't always give you the things that you need. So they're all random in the deck. And some of them will help you, some of them won't. And you always have to play all the cards in your hand. So taking an event card can either help or hurt you as the game drags on. So with that, let's actually set up a game and show you how it plays.
Does Barry Manilow know that you raid his wardrobe?
So now we've set up a 2-player game. I'm going to walk through it briefly and as concisely as I can. The first thing that happens in a 2-player game is that each of the players gets one of each of the drama cards. Again, looking back at them one more time, you have breakups, bonds, and hookups. And each player is going to have the exact same cards. Each player gets all of their bond markers. Each player places one of their bond marker on the signature area. And then each player in the game is going to take 2 students and 2 organizations and throw them into the center of the table. This is called the quad. And from the quad, players are going to be picking their starting character. So the person that's youngest simply picks a character, and to make this go quickly, we'll have this player pick the rich girl, and they will pick the hottie with the body. So as the game begins, looking over here at the scoring track, and I'll pull it closer here, the game takes place over 4 years, so freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. And within each of those years, there's 4 semesters. And you can't quite see them here, but it's fall, winter, spring, and summer. And within each of those years, your hand size can vary. So your freshman year is 2, and then all the way up to 5 for your senior year. In a very cool thematic decision, the game actually kind of feels like high school for the fact that in your first 1 or 2 years, the number of bonds you have with students is very low. So you actually kind of get that feeling that you're building up your clique as you get to the senior year, which is quite nice. Now, the way the game works is whoever drew the first cards, whoever was youngest got to pick their person first, and then the next player would be able to play their first card. Now, in each semester of a year, it's broken into 3 different things. The first thing is picking cards. So looking at this right here, all players draw action cards. Now you're allowed to draw either events or from the 3 cards you have down here, but your hand limit is 2, so you're only going to be able to do 2 of these that you wish to do. And then the second action, which is the midterm action within that same semester, is that each player alternates playing their first action. So, just going through a typical turn, we'll have the pretty rich girl make a bond. She'll play her bond card, if she had picked these two cards. Actually, she'll play a hookup card, and she'll hook up with one player. So she's going to pick the preppy guy, and she can do that because they are both from the popular clique. And you simply place a bond marker on them, and your turn is up. The next player would make a decision on one of the cards they chose. So if they had chose breakup, they would look at their cruel rating, which is a 2 on her, and the bond between these two players is only a 1, so she could break them up. Breaking them up simply puts the preppy boy back into the quad. And this goes on with playing a card during your midterm and a card during your final action. So basically, you're only playing 2 cards per semester. At the end of a school year, which is the summer semester, there's a couple different point scoring systems that take place. And they are shown right here. And they consist of everything from the most bonds with organizations to whoever has the strongest bond between 2 students, whoever is the biggest flirt. That means having more bonds with more students. And also there's other scoring opportunities, and those opportunities usually come from cards that are played within the event deck here. So that's basically how the game plays out. Now, there's a little bit more strategy to that. You want to build as many bonds as you can with as many different organizations, while also trying to strengthen those bonds so that cruel people from your rival's clique can't break them up. Because if you have a long string of bonds, and say just for this instance here, this is one large bond going off here. Now, if they were to break this bond up here, you lose all of these back to the quad. So the game really consists of trying to build up bonds as quickly as possible and trying to get as many signatures by the end of the year.
If he gets up, we'll all get up. It'll be anarchy.
So the last question is, what do I think about the game? It's actually quite interesting. The thematic feel behind the game is very prevalent in the whole design of the game. It actually feels like you're in high school. It's going to play better with those people that are either A, inebriated, or people that can role play really well. Because once you pick your main character, you can really kind of role play this and make fun of the typical archetypes that pop up throughout the game. I don't think it's going to appeal to anybody who's into deep strategy because there's simply none to be found here. It's simply making bonds, breaking up bonds, and playing through the motions through 4 years. Once you've played it a couple times, you can dip it down to about 35 minutes, maybe 35 minutes to play a game. So it moves pretty quickly. It's not one of my favorite games by any means, but it's a nice little diversion to at least try out. I would suggest at least giving it a shot. May not be worth the entry price of $20 or whatever it may be now online, but I hope that this type of video that really gives people an idea of the other games that are available besides your big box games and your typical games that you see being reviewed and looked over all the time. So this is High School Drama, and I hope you like this review.